Day 6 continues. We come to the creation of humans, men and women. As a general rule, I don't spend a lot of time reflecting upon my reflection in the mirror. Someone's thinking, yeah, we can tell. That's another. Let that go. I'd like you to think about that the next time. Think about this verse the next time you're standing in front of a mirror. Verse 26. Then God said, let us make man in our image according to our likeness. Let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, over the cattle, over all the earth, over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him. Male and female, he created them. Then God blessed them, and God said to them, be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and subdue it, have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, and over every living thing that moves on the earth. If you're not opposed to writing in your Bible, I would encourage you. See that word man there in verse 26? Now, whenever you read man, very often it's being used in a collective way to refer to mankind or humankind, and that's the context that it's being used in here. See that word? Circle it and draw a line out to your margin and write your name. In the beginning, when God was doing all this creating, he said, let us make, fill in your name here, in our image. You were made in the image of God, in his likeness. John Wolford said this, being in God's image means that humans share, though imperfectly and finitely, in God's nature. That is, in his communicable attributes, life, personality, truth, wisdom, love, holiness, justice, and so have the capacity for spiritual fellowship with him. Understand something. Humans are unique in the universe. God created hundreds of thousands of different beings or creatures, but only one was created in his image, in his likeness. Every human is an image bearer of God in his likeness. Every human. Next time you look in the mirror, next time you see your reflection, remind yourself that you are made in the image of God. He made you to be like himself. He made you like himself, that you share attributes with Almighty Creator God. Now, we're going to see in chapter 3 that that image has been marred by a thing we call sin. But it's still God's image. It's still his likeness. So much so that even though the fall happened, it didn't take that away. We see that in Genesis 9, verse 6 says this, whoever sheds man's blood, by man his blood shall be shed, for in the image of God he made man. It's said elsewhere as well, including in the New Testament. All throughout the New Testament, we're reminded that we are image bearers of God. It's verses like this one here in Genesis 9:6, that are the foundation to how we feel about many of the things that as Christians, as churches, we get very vocal about. One of those is abortion. We believe that every human is an image bearer of God. Therefore, every aborted baby is a murdered image bearer. And we're not going to be shy about that. It's also the foundation for other beliefs. Should be the foundation for all of our beliefs. If every human is an image bearer of God, then racism in any form is evil, wicked, and blasphemous. Now, there is no question that there is a problem with racism in this nation. We can't really argue that. It's very deep-rooted and complex. And I don't know what the answer, well, I do know what the answer is. The answer is Jesus. But I'm not sure how to make that answer get to every single human in the country. My concern is this response, like we're seeing right now, with the violence and the hatred and just the ugly, terrible rhetoric that's going out there, is it's not going to help. In fact, it's going to make the problem worse. I can guarantee it. You cannot use evil to bring good. The Bible even tells us that if we respond in anger or hatred or evil, no good can come from that. Now, I don't have the answer to systemic racism. There is no easy answer to that. It's a generational problem. And I believe it's going to take a generation or longer to fix it if we start trying to fix it. I don't see the world actively trying to fix it. But I know what I can do. I can look at myself. I can examine my own heart. I can look at me, I can look at myself in the mirror, and I can say to Rick, you are an image bearer of God. What image of God can the world see of you right now? Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, you are carrying the image of God with you. And what is the world seeing? What is the world seeing of the image of God as you're driving down the road, as you're standing in line at the store waiting for 45 minutes to get a loaf of bread? What is the world seeing and when you're on Facebook responding to some knucklehead saying something stupid on Facebook? What is the world seeing of the image of God as we're going through life, doing those things that we're doing? I am an image bearer of God. You are image bearers of God. Each and every one of us has an intrinsic value not found in us, but found in God, in His nature, in His attributes. He has instilled within each of us a value that surpasses anything in this universe. And each and every one of us have that value. Every human I come in contact with is also an image bearer of God. They also have the exact same intrinsic value that I have. Therefore, to treat them any other way than as a precious image bearer of God is wrong. God created every race. All of them. Why? Because He could. Man uses it to divide. We ought to use it to rejoice. Wow, God, look what you did. We don't do that. And we all probably struggle with it to some degree or another. I hope not too much. God doesn't differentiate between one race or another, with the possible exception of the Jews. He's got a special thing going on with them. But the rest of us, God's colorblind. And we ought to be as well. Let's get back to our text. God made man in His image and then gave him dominion over all the rest of creation. There's a fascinating conversation we could have about dominion. Unfortunately, our dominion over the creation is messed up because of sin. And so as we look around the world and the things that humankind has done to this world, to this earth, that's a consequence of our sin corrupted dominion. Verse 27 says that God made them male and female. How many genders? 2. Why only 2? I don't know. That's what he said. He said 2. In God's economy, how many genders do we need for this world? 2. Count them. Can you count them? 2. And then he says to them, be fruitful and multiply. Which means every new baby is an act of faith and obedience to God in his creation. And we should rejoice. We typically do. We do child dedications rejoicing in God's grace to us through the bringing of children into this world. Verses 29 and 30. And God said, see, I have given you every herb that yields seed on which is on the face of all the earth, and every tree whose fruit yields seed, to you it shall be for food. Also to every beast of the earth, to every bird of the air, and to everything that creeps on the earth, in which there is life. I have given every green herb for food, and it was so. Apparently, that in the original creation, people and animals were all vegetarians. That appears to have changed at some point, because 2 weeks from Saturday, 2 weeks from yesterday, we're having bacon. So just know that. There will be bacon, and plentiful amounts of it. So everyone's vegetation. We see that after the flood, or after the fall, that appears to have changed.